Hi. You can type your questions and then we'll answer them.
Yeah, because Katie's going to be like the moderator.
Yeah, I'm behind the camera. There's Larry.
Go.
For everyone.
Get out of here, bud. I got to show people stuff.
All right.
Go. Stay there. Okay. All right. So, welcome. Today, we're talking about back pain. Yay. So, a little bit of background. Way back in 2016?
Something like that, yeah.
I hurt my back. And it was like, it wasn't even like I was lifting heavy. It was just, I was lifting, probably wasn't as focused on form as I should have been. I think it was like a warm-up.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like a pop all down my back. And everything went numb and tingly. And then I like couldn't walk. And so it was really scary. And we went to, Katie took me to urgent care. They gave me like a shot to make it feel better.
You know, totally fixes everything.
Yeah, and the guy was like, well, I just wouldn't deadlift anymore. And obviously, if you know me and the fact that I've been powerlifting for a long time and I have since broken some records, etc., I did not stop deadlifting. And I think that's like the key takeaway here is like sometimes medical providers will tell you to stop doing a movement. And what they probably mean, but they don't realize, is that you need to fix something with that movement, right? And so that's kind of what we try to do as coaches to help our clients figure out what went wrong and how to make sure it doesn't happen again. And also get you strong in positions where you're actually out of alignment a little bit so that the next time you go out of alignment, you already have the strength to be okay to handle it.
Yeah.
So that's a totally different chat, and we talk about that in some of our podcasts and such. But today I want to review like what happened with my back and
recently
and how I've been fixing it. So recently I wasn't doing anything. The funny thing is I was powerlifting for so long and I would have occasional back pain after a really like hard heavy lift. But then it would go away within like 24 hours. So I didn't think it was a big deal. I just thought, I went too hard. But it was repetitive. Like it would happen quite a bit. And then pretty recently, I shifted my career into tech. I kind of retired from powerlifting. I sit a lot more, and I hadn't been as consistent with my resistance training. And so what happened one day, I think we went on a hike, and it wasn't like anything happened. It just the next day I woke up and I couldn't move. And my back was in so much pain for about 10 days. It was brutal. Like I was crying, I couldn't move. It was really, really bad. And nothing really like brought it on. But what I think happened was this was a chronic issue that has happened ever since I hurt my back, maybe before that. And when I was powerlifting, even though it was like intense and kind of bothering me, I was consistently training. And that protected me from feeling the pain or getting injured because I was protecting myself by being consistent with my weightlifting. And my physical therapist agreed with this, which is super interesting. So I want to go through a little bit of what I did for my back to make it feel better because now I'm pretty good. So this was in April?
Yeah, it was a few months ago.
Yeah. Am I missing anything before I go into the actual?
No, I mean, I would start just with like the routine that you tell, and also we're going to break down the movements and explain how often you did it too.
My gosh. Okay, yeah. So with the back pain, after about 10 days, I went to see my friend who's a physical therapist. She's amazing. Shout out to Christina, Inclusive Care. I went in there and I had already been doing exercises, and I'm going to show you the exercises I was already doing. But in my mind, I was afraid, and she helped me shift my mindset around fear and pain. And she was basically like, okay, when you injure yourself, what happens is, you have this inflammation, and you're not going to be able to do a lot, but it's going to go down. And when it goes down, then you need to push it a little bit and not be afraid of a little bit of pain if you're like working within a range that feels okay and you give yourself enough time for that inflammation to go down. So that's what I did. And she really helped me shift my mindset, which made me push a little harder each session, which made me heal a lot faster.
Yeah.
So when I went in there, I told her all the exercise I was doing, and she was like, great. And her only feedback was do a little bit more intense things as you get better. And so she gave me some of those. But so when I was first in pain, the first thing I did was constantly move. Let's put that out there.
Yeah. Even if it's just walking.
Even if it's just walking, yeah. Because sitting down is what hurt the most, and lying down kind of sucks too. But walking always made it feel better. And my physical therapist explained that a lot of that is because of the fluid in your spine. And when you're exercising, when you're moving, that synovial joint like fluid is like
goes through your discs.
Yeah, it goes through your discs and actually makes you like feel better.
Yeah, and why don't you explain how you and Christina both think that you probably have a herniated disc?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So when I first started my back in 2016, they said I had a bulging disc.
Whatever that means.
Honestly, they showed me the MRI. It's like it's not herniated, so the disc is not all the way through. It was just bulging. At this point, I do think it's herniated. Christina kind of agreed. She did a bunch of tests on me. We decided that I have at least one disc issue, most likely, and something going on at the SI joint as well. Something about that way that all is. Because when I jump around, like the impact doesn't bother me. It's definitely like hinging and things like that. So I definitely have something wrong with the disc. It's probably herniated.
Yeah.
I never got an MRI because it's not going to change anything about the things that I'm doing.
Right.
And that I think is a key point, right?
It's key because you're still doing strength training with a herniated disc, probably.
Exactly.
So you can still move with a herniated disc.
The way to heal a herniated disc
is to move.
Is to exercise and fix it and try to move. Move. And so surgery is obviously like
last resort
and not an option for me. I'm just not going to do that. And I'd say it's the last resort for everyone after trying all of the things. So, quick point, if you have a herniated disc or you have a back issue, please go to a doctor.
Yeah.
And get some clearance.
Ideally, a physical therapist.
But ideally, a very good physical therapist like I saw. I have a recommendation in Colorado. So let me take you through a little bit of what I did. So at first, it was super painful. And I was working in a very small range of motion. And the key is to always work in a range of motion where there isn't pain. And then after time, move to where there's just a tiny bit of like irritation, but that's it. And then don't go any farther, okay? So first I was doing cat-cows to warm up kind of. And this is just like spinal segmentation, right? And obviously like this is a cat-cow, so you're up and you're down, right? But at first, it was very much like, I actually think I did my knees back for a while.
Yeah.
Because it feels better. And I did it was literally like this. Right?
Yeah.
I don't even know if you can see that, but.
Yeah.
Okay, good. It was just very, very small movements. And that was what I could do without a lot of pain. And so that's what I did. And I'm going to show you the whole routine and tell you how many times I did it. So I started there. Now I try to go really slow. I segment by starting with the neck, and then I move down the back all the way here, and then I
breathing
go under. So I really try to segment it now, a little slower than that even. From there, what's the next thing I did?
90-90.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of my back pain was relieved when I worked on my glutes and my hips. So the 90-90 is where you sit in a position where your front leg is at 90 and your back leg is at 90, okay? And right now you can automatically see like I'm shifted this way. You want to try to sit on both hips and you're going to feel a cramp here, most likely.
Support yourself.
And you can support yourself, obviously. With this hand, I already have a cramp.
Yeah.
You can see I'm still getting used to this. So 90-90 position, you may feel something here even, right? Like you may feel crampy. This might be hard for you. This is like level 1, right?
Yeah.
So stay there if that's the case. Some other things you can do, you can like rotate with it and try to hold. And so like rotate to the side, try to keep your weight as even as possible throughout those hips and hold. One of the things that I did that felt really good is I just kept my back foot down, but I would lift my back knee. And so what that does is it kind of like compresses this hip here and it feels really uncomfortable. And then I would hold it, so I do like sets of 10 and then I'd hold it. And I've since progressed to lifting the whole leg, which is very crampy, but possible. Lifting the front leg, like there's a lot of different things you can do in the 90-90 position. But as your hips kind of cramp a little bit, it takes the pressure off your back. It feels pretty good.
Yeah.
So I do that for both sides.
Piriformis.
Piriformis stretch was next. This one was hard. At first I couldn't do it. So this one took me maybe a week before I could actually do it. So be careful. If you're in current pain, number 1, see a doctor and get cleared. Number 2, be careful with this one. You may need to take it easy. So this leg is kind of in like this. This leg goes over in kind of like a pretzel formation. And you're going to turn your chest toward the knee. Right, Katie? Make sure.
Yeah, and then kind of hang down. Yep.
Yeah. And then you kind of I lean into this foot, and you'll feel this stretch way back in your piriformis, which is where the sciatic nerve either runs through or under for most people. And if that piriformis muscle is inflamed, that nerve will get inflamed, and sometimes you'll feel something down your leg. That's the sciatic nerve. And so this stretch for the piriformis,
really good for back pain
for a while, and it feels really nice.
Yeah.
But again, at first I couldn't do it.
Yeah, you can
couldn't hinge.
support yourself with one arm too.
Yes.
Like that. Yeah, if you need to. Yeah.
Yeah, this one took me, I would say, at least a week, maybe more.
Yeah.
I could actually do it.
Yeah. And then the Frogger hold. So adductors are a huge weakness.
Yeah. Adductors. So I have a huge weakness in my adductors. Sometimes when I would squat, like really heavy when I was powerlifting, I would notice that these would be super sore because they're just like, I don't work them enough. So adductor is a huge thing. So depending on your mobility, this may be wider or smaller than what I'm doing now. But you're basically in like a frog position. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
With your legs. And then the goal is to get taller, right? At least that's what it was for me.
Yeah,
to walk my hands back.
Yeah.
And then to squeeze. So I'm pretending that the floor, I'm just squeezing against it, pulling in. And I would just hold that contraction and that squeeze for, it depended on the day, but 10 to 20 to 30 seconds, and then release.
Yeah. Yeah. And then press ups.
Press ups. This is a big one too. This is part of the McGill thing.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So this is a good one. Depending on where your pain is, for me, because the disc is probably herniated most of the time discs herniate that way. They don't herniate this way. So certain movements will be like more painful than others. But if you can do spinal extension, start very, very small. So when you're first in pain, you might literally be right here. And I couldn't even lay on my stomach the first week. So I had to wait until like week 2 to do this. But once I could, I would just press into my forearms and my hands a little bit. And I'd probably stop, wherever the pain, right before the pain, that's where I would stop. And I would just move through that. And I would hold and move through. Eventually, I got higher. And eventually, I could even come here. But it's totally, again, up to you. And you're working in the range of motion that is not painful or is like right at the edge. And each week, hopefully you're feeling a little better, getting a little stronger.
Yeah. Peeing dog.
Peeing dog, my least favorite one. So I did all of these moves multiple times a day. So peeing dog.
It's a funny name.
Funny name. The key with this one is to keep your knee up. So you're on all fours. You're going to externally rotate, and your knee is supposed to stay the same height as your hip. Which for some people, this may be hard right off the bat. And then you point your toe, and extend, and bring it in. And when I bend, what I don't want to do is drop my knee, right? So I don't want it to look like this. That's exaggerated, but I want it to stay high.
Yeah.
And then at the end, I hold. And this hold used to be like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Because my glute would start screaming at me. And
cramping.
My back would feel better.
Yeah.
But that cramping is good. It means your glute's working. But then I built up, and now I can do like 30 seconds or something each side. So that's peeing dog.
Yeah, hip compression, the lifts.
Hip compression lifts. Okay, next one. So this one, couple of different options. I'll just start with the most simple one, this one.
Mm-hmm,
okay,
yeah.
Cool. So knee into the chest, other leg is straight. You're gonna hug this knee, and the key to this one is you want compression on the hips. You have to lean forward. Because if I lean backward, I can literally lift this leg up all day, no problem. That's not compressing that hip joint or that hip flexor muscle. So what you want to do is lean forward into this foot as much as you can, and then try to lift the leg off the floor as you lean forward.
Your quad's probably going to cramp. It's going to really suck, and that means you're doing it right.
Yep. And then I would do like 5 to 10 reps and then hold.
Yeah.
For 5 to 10 seconds.
Yeah. All right.
Sweating.
Cool.
Okay, so that was kind of the routine that I would go through.
Actually, let's talk about just activating the glutes right after.
Oh, yes.
Because that was one of your problems, was just lack of connection to the glute.
Awesome.
So after all that, just try to activate,
Yeah, so one of the reasons I was getting hurt, and I talked to my physical therapist about this as well, when I was powerlifting, is because I was going right into squats and deadlifts, but I wasn't having that like mental neuromuscular connection to my glutes. So when people say something isn't firing, like it's got to be firing somewhat because you're doing hip extension.
You wouldn't be able to like
firing.
walk.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to move. But there's something to be said about recruiting the muscle fibers you need to recruit and like the intensity of it with your mind. And so what you need to do is prime the glutes. And so this routine that I've been doing, what I do now, I was doing this routine like 5 times a day when I first got hurt. Literally 5 times a day. That's what it took, and it worked. And now I probably do it 3 times a day. I should probably do more. But one of the times I do it is right before my workout. So anytime I'm doing squats, deadlifts, anything like that, I do this first. And all of a sudden, now squats, I feel them in my butt. Deadlifts, I feel them in my butt, like never before. My butt grew a little bit, which is kind of fun, because it never does, because now I have that connection. And so, so if I was just doing physical therapy, I actually have a band. So Christina, my physical therapist, had me add a couple things I should probably mention. Band around, like a hip circle around your knees. I did external rotation, which everyone thinks of as the PT move. But she also had me I would put the band around my ankles and do internal rotation. That was a huge one because that's not one we typically think of, right? But it's an important movement to work. But I personally have an issue with internal rotation. One of my legs doesn't internally rotate as far as the other one, so there is a little imbalance there. But having said all that, after everything, I would do some glute work. So I would do it on a bench or a couch, but you could also do it on the floor. But basically glute bridges. So you can I couldn't do single leg at first because of the pain, so I was just doing both. And sometimes I would keep a band on just so I could drive my knees out and feel it. But just basic glute bridges and then some holds at the end.
Thinking about the glute, connecting to it.
Glutes, yeah, and they should already be burning because we've been warming them up, priming them this whole time. And so now you have that connection. Now you're doing your glute bridges. And then eventually we added some weight to that. I started doing very small good mornings and deadlifts over time, and adding small weights to that. The deadlifts, we started on a really high surface, so I'd have like 2 dumbbells right here, and I'd have like a step, and I'd pick the dumbbells up, and it would just be from like here to here, right? And then eventually I went a little lower, and then eventually I went lower, and now I'm all the way to the floor again, but it took a while.
Yeah. I mean, this process took you, after like really committing and going to physical therapy, I mean, it probably took you like a month. So it wasn't as long as people think.
No, it wasn't. I think my pain started to subside within a couple weeks. It was still there. It was there especially in the morning. But as soon as I did my little workout, my little PT moves, it would feel much better. And I would also walk a lot more. I walk the dog a lot more too.
Yeah.
It helped. So I think the key takeaway is like, if you have back pain, the worst thing you can do is stop moving completely. Yes, the first instance of injury, it's going to be so inflamed that you may have to like really relax a lot the first couple days, but I would still walk, right? Because walking shouldn't really be painful if you can handle it. But then as you start to feel a little less pain, and I mean a little, I was still in pain when I was doing PT, but it was like on a scale of 1 to 10, it wasn't that bad. And a physical therapist, a good physical therapist, will kind of give you a number. That's what Christina did for me. She was like, give me a number of 1 to 10 of your pain. And I would give her a number, and she'd be like, yeah, you can still go. I want it to be like higher. I want you to work at like, I don't remember what the number was.
Yeah.
At the time, but.
Or you can find a personal trainer who specializes in like corrective exercise or prehab. I do this for my clients all the time. If they have pain, we always adjust it. But I think the key takeaway here is like, unless you guys want to get surgery, like you have to be consistent with this stuff. Yeah. Like, especially honestly, you most likely will be because you're going to be in so much pain. It's literally the only option.
Yeah.
So
even now, like it's been months, and if I sit too long for work and I forget to do one of my 3 sessions, like I feel it. And so I have to go back to doing it if I want to be able to do the things I want to do.
Yeah. So, I mean, of the small amount of people watching, if there's any questions, we'll stay on for a couple more minutes, but we're going to be dropping an exclusive little workout tomorrow for you guys to follow. Honestly, this stuff is good to do. If you don't have back pain, you'll get really better mobility from this. So it's going to be a benefit either way. So stay tuned for that tomorrow, but especially if you're in pain, obviously this is a good routine to start doing, but get cleared from your doctor first. Disclaimer.
Disclaimer.
Cool. All right, you guys. If there's no questions, that's it. See you guys later.
See ya.